Hello friends, I am Sumit. This is my YouTube channel Massive. So, debt management is very important for any government of any country. And for past many years, we have been talking about the debt sustainability of the government. And I'm not talking about any particular government, okay? Even if you look at the states, many states have gone for loan waivers. They have provided loan waivers to the farmers, and most of them have done this right before the elections uh, to appease the farmers, right? And not just loan waivers. If you see, even Delhi government often targeted by the other parties, opposition parties, that Delhi government provides too much subsidy to the Delhi residents for number of utilities, for electricity, for water charges, right? So, and since it is going to impose burden on generations to come, because whatever extra spending they are doing, it somehow disturbs the overall pocket of the government. So it is going to impact the debt management, right? So in this video, I'm going to talk about Ricardo equivalence. Yesterday, I was having a word with my good friend Animesh, and we briefly talked about Ricardo equivalence. So see, basically, David Ricardo. He was a classical economist uh, who who basically had a classical school of thought. So basically, classical economists, they believe that fiscal policy is ineffective in the short term. You cannot impact the aggregate demand in the economy. Uh, well, if you are not able to understand, it's okay. I'm going to talk about something else. So he was a classical economist, and in early 19th century, he wrote a paper, essay on the funding system, and in that paper, he explored the possibility of change in the consumption pattern, uh, depending upon the method of financing the government spending by government. So if government goes for higher spending in some period, so it has multiple options. Either it can finance that spending through taxes, or it can, if it's not able to levy enough taxes, then it can either borrow. It can also borrow from different sources. So either they can finance their spending through borrowing, or they can levy the taxes, or combination of both. So David Ricardo concluded this, that uh, irrespective of the method of financing the government spending, the overall demand in the economy is not going to be impacted. So whenever country is facing the economic slowdown, okay, like right now, if you see, we all are facing the recession, right? Times are not good. If you see, and it's not just in India. I mean, if you see across the world, we are facing the global economic slowdown. So mostly related to the spillover effects of uh, global pandemic, which is probably still going on. So now you see, whenever country is facing a recession, then in that case, government often becomes very. Government often goes for expansionary fiscal policy. Expansionary fiscal policy means government tend to become more soft as far as levying of taxes are concerned. So they tend to reduce the taxes so that they can sort of spur the economic activity. They try to stimulate the economy by either lowering the taxes, or by offering some other tax incentives, or even if they are not reducing the taxes, they can just directly borrow from different sources, and can increase the government expenditure, because government expenditure is a key component of the total expenditure in the economy. So if total expenditure gets increased, then it sort of propels the producers to supply more, and then it sets off a good chain reaction. Of course, it's not infinite. It doesn't go on I mean, there is an end to it. There is one dead end to it. But yes, it does set off a chain reaction. In a oblique way, I'm talking about multiplier, government expenditure multiplier, which I may not be able to talk in this video, because that need not be shared. Okay, so then what I was talking, that see, David Ricardo, he concluded that if government reduces the tax rate, so that you know people can spend more, right? Then he suggested that if government reduces the tax rate, then consumers are rational enough to internalize the government's fiscal situation in their budget constraint. So consumers are forward looking, they are rational enough to, so they are well aware that government is having a budget deficit in this period because they have lowered their taxes, and I'm assuming that they have not increased the spending. Okay, so if government has reduced the taxes and if the government spending remains the same, then in that case they are witnessing the budget deficit. So and they have reduced the taxes just to provide some leeway for the consumers to go for higher spending, so that it can stimulate the entire economic activity, because we are facing the headwinds in the recession, during recession. So then David Ricardo concluded that, well, consumers are also not stupid. They are very well aware that though government has reduced the tax in the current period, they are going to repay, because if they are incurring a budget deficit, so they must have borrowed from somewhere, right? Because I'm not assuming that they have reduced the spending as well, so that so that they will not be incurring budget deficit. I'm saying they have reduced the taxes, but their spending has not been reduced, or not reduced by an equal amount. Okay, so they are incurring deficit, so they must be borrowing from somewhere. So consumers know that since government is borrowing, so they are going to repay this debt along with interest rate sooner or later, not maybe not next year, maybe few years down the line. And how they will be repaying that debt? Well, they will be consumers know that they will be repaying the debt through levying additional or higher taxes in future. So they will be like, this time they will also be levying tax in the next period, or maybe few years down the line, but they will be levying higher taxes to repay the debt with interest rate. And this is why consumers become alert, and they think that, well, in future they may not be in position to repay the tax, to basically to pay the higher tax. So they tend to save more in the current period itself, because this conclusion of David Ricardo was also affirmed by Robert Barrow in 20th century, in I think in late 1970s or early 1970s. Robert Barrow gave the permanent income life cycle hypothesis, where he said that consumers are concerned about their permanent income. Okay, they basically tend to have smoothened consumption across the life cycle. So consumers are not only bothered about their current income. Okay, they do also consider what would be their future income. And since they know that government is going to levy higher taxes, so their income in future will change. It will not be as per their expectations. So they basically, consumers then decide their consumption patterns accordingly, and they will be saving in the current period more, so that they can earn return over their current saving, and would be in decent position to pay higher taxes in the future. So government, which was hoping that they will be reducing the tax rate in the current period, and it will increase the disposable income of consumers, which will propel them to have more consumption. That does not happen. What is disposable income? Disposable income is the income which is left with consumers after paying taxes. So it is nothing but income minus taxes. Suppose income is Y and T is taxes. So Y minus T is the disposable income, the income which is left with consumers to either save or spend. Because disposable income is something which you can use. Of course, you will be paying taxes. You can use your income only after paying the taxes. So Y minus T is the usable income, which can either be used for consumption or savings, right? Now, government thinks that Y minus T will be increasing because T will be reduced. And since Y minus T will be increasing, so Y minus T decides what will be the consumption and saving, right? Higher will be the Y minus T, higher will be the saving and consumption. See, Y minus T will be divided into consumption and saving, right? So if Y minus T will be more because of less T, then there will be more C and S. Both will be increasing. And your total consumption, your total expenditure, as I told you, it includes government expenditure, consumption expenditure. C is also component of total expenditure, right? So if C will also be increasing because of higher disposable income, then it will be stimulating the economy, but that does not happen. And the reason for that is, I'll just tell you 1 second. Just see here. You can see, suppose the consumption function is this: C equal to C naught plus small c y minus t. Y is the income of consumer, T is the tax which he is paying, small c is the marginal propensity to consume, C naught is the minimum consumption he needs to survive, and this is the actual the total consumption, okay, which is a function of C naught, small c, y, and t. So what is marginal propensity to consume? Basically, marginal propensity to consume tells you that what proportion of your income you spend. So suppose if your income is 100 and if marginal propensity to consume is 30%, then you are going to spend 30% of that 100 and rest 70 you will be saving. So basically, marginal propensity to consume will be equal to 1 minus marginal propensity to save. So if small c is 0.3, then 0.7 will be marginal propensity to save, because both will be sum of both will be equal to 1. By which is nothing but equivalent to say that you will be basically your saving and consumption will be adding up to your disposable income, right? So your basically your small c is your marginal propensity to consume. C naught bar is the minimum consumption which you will be having, and it is irrespective of what income you have, right? So even if your income is 0, you are still going to have some consumption to survive, right? So that is the minimum consumption you are going to have, right? So C actual total consumption is C naught par plus small c, and small c basically is a function of disposable income, okay? So whatever is the disposable income, you are going to spend some part of it as a consumption. So this is the function. Now because of disposable income, because this V minus T gets increased, so because this increase, your C goes up. But don't forget, consumers are also cautious that there will be more T in period 2. So this C, small c, will come down. So overall effect would be that your C will not increase, which government initially thought. And this is why it will not impact the overall demand of the economy. So this is it, and now let me use graphical analysis. It may not be very important, but still, if you are curious enough to know how does it happen, then you can watch it ahead. Now, if you see, so suppose on this axis I have consumption in the second period, which is C2, and along the x-axis I draw consumption along the consumption in the first period, say it is C1. Okay, so suppose income in first period is Y1, income in the second period, say it is Y2. Okay, now so now you tell me that what can be your maximum consumption in period 1. So say C1 star is a maximum consumption in period 1. What it will be? Well, it will be Y1 plus Y2 divided by 1 plus R. R is suppose rate of interest. So my maximum consumption in period 1 will be Y1, which is my income of first year, plus basically if I need to consider this, like try to think in terms of present value of consumption. Okay, so what would be my present value of consumption? So this will be Y1 plus income of period 2, which is Y2 divided by 1 plus R. So I'm discounting my future income using this rate of interest. Okay, so suppose this is the prevailing rate of interest. So this will be my maximum consumption in period 1. Similarly, C2 star. So suppose C2 star is my maximum consumption in period 2. So what it will be? Well, it will be Y2, which is my income in the period 2, plus suppose I don't want to spend even a penny of my current period income. So what I'll be doing, I'll basically put whole income in some saving account and or fixed, like whatever. So I'm going to invest this whole income in some instrument, and I'm going to earn interest rate of R on this Y1 income, and so this will be my total income in the second period, which will be equal to the total maximum consumption I'm going to enjoy in that period, right? So this will be my C2 star, this will be my C1 star. So this is my C1 star, and this is my C2 star. So you see this, of course, this will be a straight line because there's no, I mean, if you see, it's a linear function, right? Basically, you see, um, so basically, so C2 star will be y2 plus y1 into 1 plus r, and C1 star will be y1 plus y2 upon 1 plus r, right? And what will be the slope of this line? Well, it's not hard to imagine. You can what you can do, you can basically substitute the value of y2 uh, in terms, like, basically you can have a function of C1 star. Basically you can define C1 star as a function of C2 star by substituting the value of y2 from here, right? Either way. So this, it's not hard to imagine that the slope will be minus 1 plus r. So slope is nothing but change in C2 upon change in C1, right? And this will be minus 1 plus r. Anyway, so slope will be minus 1 plus r. Now imagine, so suppose this was your y2 and this was your y1 somewhere here, right? So of course maximum consumption will be more than y1 because you can borrow anyway, right? You can borrow in your current period, and you can repay that borrowed amount in next period, because you are going to have some income in next period also, right? So basically if you consume more than your current income, then that is possible only through borrowing, but the result would be that you will be having less consumption in the next period, because you will be using next period's income to repay your borrowing which you borrowed in the current period. So of course your consumption in next period will be less than y2 because you had more consumption in period 1, which was more than y1, right? But if you suppose if you go for lesser consumption than your current income, say if your C1 is less than y1, in that case it is nothing but it is equivalent to say that you are saving in this period. And if since you are saving in this period, so then you are going to return you are going to use that extra saving along with the interest rate to be earned over it in next period, and next period your consumption is going to be more than y2 for the same reason, because you saved in this period, right? So this is the thing, right? So suppose and I should have one more thing. I forgot to include the taxes into it, right? I should have considered tax in this entire framework. Let me Okay, y1. You could have imagined I would have written y1 minus t1. Okay, because your consumption is actually not a function of income but your disposable income, right? Because you pay taxes and then only you are in a position to use that income, whatever income is left after paying taxes. Only that income can be used to either save or consume, right? Consume your goods or services. So I should have written y1 minus t1, or let me write again. So C1 star is y1 minus t1 plus y2 minus t2 upon 1 plus r. Okay, and your C2 star would have been y2 minus t2 plus y1 minus t1 into 1 plus r. Okay, so it could have been written this way, right? Now okay, now let me 1 second now. So now you can see that and suppose this was my disposable income period 1, y1 minus t1, right? Rest of the things remain same. Okay, so now you can see that suppose so this is y minus t1. Now if government reduces the tax rate, okay, government reduces the tax rate in the period 1, then this y minus t1 will go rightward. So basically this point should come here, but don't forget that if y minus t1 gets increased, it is possible only if t2 also gets increased in future. So suppose in period 2, okay, which is this which is the second period. So suppose if y minus t1 gets increased, then because t2 will also be increasing, then y2 minus 2 will also be falling. So basically this point will come here. So basically the point will again lie on the same line, same constraint line, budget constraint line of the consumer. This is the budget constraint line of the consumer, right? So since t1 decreased, that's why y minus t1 would lie here, given y2 minus t2. But we should not forget that t2 will also be increasing, so y2 minus 2 will also fall. So basically the coordinate will lie somewhere here, and this is the part of same line. Now suppose, so you see that this is the this is the utility function of consumer. So utility of consumer is a function of C1 and C2. So of course, if consumer goes for higher consumption in both periods, then in that case his utility is going to get increased. If consumer goes for higher C1 but lower C2, then there is a possibility that his utility remains the same. So, and if consumer goes for lower C1 and C2, then his utility is going to get reduced. So utility is a function of C1 and C2. Okay, it can be either any function, linear function, quadratic function, whatever, right? Now, see, I have to draw one curve, right? So suppose this is the curve. Now, along this curve, you can see that suppose consumer reduces the consumption in period 2. If C2 gets reduced, then consumer is going to have same satisfaction only if he is going to increase his consumption by certain amount, so that his overall utility remains the same. So basically, it's not hard to imagine that if consumer has to remain on the same curve, or in other words, if consumer has to have same level of satisfaction, then if C2 gets reduced, then C1 has to be increased, or in other way, if C1 gets reduced, then C2 has to be increased. So this curve will be negatively sloped, and on this, along this entire curve, consumer is going to have same level of utility. So if we go in the northeast direction, if we go for a higher curve in this direction, or in this direction, or in this direction, in that case we are going to witness higher utility level of consumer. And if we go for lower curve, so suppose earlier we were here where consumption was C2 was this and C1 was this, but if we go for lower curve, suppose here, in that case we are seeing lower consumption in both periods, so we are going to witness lower utility for consumer. So this curve basically tells you what is the utility level of consumer. Now see, this is the budget constraint for consumer. So there will be multiple curves. So he can have say utility of certain level through either of the combinations of C1 and C2. Then he can have a higher level of utility through different combinations of C1 and C2 along this curve. So basically he can of course these combinations of C1 C2 are not affordable for him because it lies past this constraint for him. And these basically this C1 C2 combination are of course affordable to him, but he still would be left with certain income, right? So basically he will be optimal combination of C1 C2 will be decided by such curve which will be tangent to this line, right, which is his budget constraint, which is symbolizing his budget constraint. So suppose this curve suppose tangent to this line at this particular point. So basically he will be consuming so he will be having consumption equal to this point in period 1, and he will be having consumption of this much in period 2. And since just before just few minutes ago I told you that when T1 gets reduced and we expect T2 gets to be we expect that T2 is also going to be increased. In that case we are going to come to this point, and this point lies on this budget constraint, and we can move from one point to any of the points on this curve because if we are consuming more, then in that case we can repay it in the next period, right, using next period income. Or if we are saving, then we can have more consumption in next period because we will be earning a return over it. So basically we can move from this point to either of the points on this in this line. So basically even if government reduces the tax in period 1 and increase the tax in second period, in that case this point will still be affordable. And since this point was optimal point for consumer, so since it is still affordable, if it was affordable earlier and it was chosen by the consumer, and since this point is still affordable because it lies on the same budget line for the consumer, then consumer is still going to stick to his consumption choice, which is to say that he's going to have this much consumption in period 1 and this much consumption in period 2. By default, I mean, I could have drawn this curve like this also, right? It could have been drawn like this also. So in that case, this would have been the optimal combination of consumer. So in that case, he would have this much consumption in period 1 and this much consumption in period 2, which is equivalent to say that he would have saved in period 1 and he would have he would have saved in period 1 so that he could have enjoyed more consumption higher than his income in period 2, or we could have drawn here also, right? So in either ways, we are in position to defend what we started with, that your, like, irrespective of your method of financing your government spending, it is not going to impact the consumption pattern, and hence it will not have any impact on the overall demand in the economy. So that was all about that was what all about the this Ricardo equivalence, because it is equivalent whether you finance your government spending either through taxes or through government borrowing. It is not going to impact the overall demand of the economy. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for your time.